KMA calendar, the 11th Sri M.K.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture. Let us begin the session with a minute's silence and pray to Almighty that we all remain safe and healthy and the whole world overcomes these gloomy days. And also say a special word of prayer for the souls of those known and unknown ones who have succumbed to their fate during these challenging times. Continue to be seated wherever you are and close your eyes for a minute. Thank you and good evening once again, and welcome to this edition of the Sri M.K.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture at KMA. As you know, every year we have 3 memorial lectures organized by the Kerala Management Association, commemorating the lives and contributions of 3 doyens of management education and administration, and who played important roles in shaping up KMA to where it is today. Professor M.V. Paili, Professor K.T. Chandi, and Sri M.K.K. Nayar. These memorial lecture sessions over the years have seen many celebrated leaders from the industry and academia coming over and delivering keynote speeches, enlightening and enriching us on many useful and contemporary topics. This year, under the leadership of our chairman for KMA Memorial Lectures, Mr. A.C.K. Nayar, we have already had the Professor M.V. Paili Memorial Lecture delivered by former President of IMA and the Group Executive President at Aditya Birla Group, Mr. D. Shivakumar in February. The Professor K.T. Chandi Memorial Lecture by yet another distinguished speaker, Mr. R.R. Nayar, an independent director and CEO coach for many Indian and multinational companies. And today, we have the 11th edition of the Sri M.K.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture, going to be delivered by none other than the Chief Executive of our State of Kerala, our Chief Secretary, Dr. V.P. Joy, IAS. We begin the proceedings with a formal welcome address as well as a brief introduction of our chief guest by Mr. A.C.K. Nayar, Chairman of the KMA Memorial Lecture Series. Mr. Nayar is the member of our Managing Committee at KMA, and he is the Airport Director at CAL, or Cochin International Airport Limited, and Managing Director of the Cochin International Aviation Services Limited, or CIASL Academy, and he has also served as an elected member of the Asia Pacific Regional Director Board of Airport Council International, which is the only global trade representative of the world's airports. He also serves in the State Advisory Committee as a member of the Kerala State Electricity Regulatory Commission. Mr. A.C.K. Nayar, Chairman of Memorial Lectures at KMA, to offer the welcome address and also to introduce our guest of the day. Over to you, sir.
Respected Chief Guest of this function, Dr. V.P. Joy, sir. Respected Chair of KMA, Shri Madhav Chandran. Shri Jayadalagan, sir. Secretary, Honorary Secretary, Shri Joman Josh. Our past presidents, other KMA members and participants. It is a happy occasion to be there for welcoming the chief guest and other dignitaries for this today's function. As President was rightly mentioned, we have 3 memorial lectures, and this lecture, M.K.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture, is the last in this year. And I think we all know that M.K.K. Nayar is a doyen in in this management era, and he was the man changed the industrial face of Ernakulam, and so many contributions, not only for the management as well as the art and other literary activities in Ernakulam and Kochi when he was heading the FACT. So when we are reading his autobiography, Arodum Paribhavamillade in Malayalam, then only I could realize that the person who has been started his career in Kerala and then moved to in the Kerala government and moved to defense, then gone to civil service and served his coveted positions in various portfolios. And anyway, he is to be remembered always. His life history is to be studied by all the managerial students or even the management experts. Thank you for this, and I'm straight away going to my responsibility. See, first of all, I would like to extend my hearty welcome to our chief guest of this function, Dr. V.P. Joy, sir. When I talk to him, he is readily consented to be the chief guest and to deliver this lecture today. And we all know that he is in the position of very busy position, but however, all literary and other type of these functions is always will be ready to join with us. So I am heartily welcoming you, sir, for this function. I will introduce to him after my welcome address. And our dynamic, young and energetic leader of KMA, Mr. Madhav Chandran, though in the pandemic situations, Kerala Management Association is organizing various functions on every week and every month, and his special interest on various topics and new initiatives already started in Kerala Management Association. So I'm welcoming the chair of this today's function, Madhav Chandran, on behalf of KMA and all members. When we want a memorial lecture about MKK Nayar, we and myself and SR Nayar, and we're discussing about searching for a person. Then we all come to one particular person who has been worked with him in FACT, and then he has directly seen him and has having so many experience with him. So we have been finally told him to be to commemorate the speech about MKK Nayar is consented. And Jayadilan sir, I am heartily welcoming you for this function to accepting our invitation. Our honorary secretary will be extending the vote of thanks for this function, and I am welcoming Ms. Joman George for this function. Next, I would like to have a brief introduction to our chief guest, Dr. V.P. Joy, sir. I think Dr. V.P. Joy is popularly known as Joy Warale in literary world, and he is the most qualified bureaucrat in India. And he is a 1987 batch AS officer, and he is the senior bureaucrat with poetic mind. അതായത് കവി ഹൃദയമുള്ള ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറിമാരിൽ വിരളമായിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നിട്ടുള്ള അതിലൊരാളാണ് നമ്മളെ ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ പ്രസന്റ് ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറി. He is a Malayalam poet, researcher, and administrator. He is also known for his books and research papers on energy policy and also on philosophy of education, mind, and metaphysics. He has published several literary works in Malayalam language, mainly poetic compositions. His official career spanning more than 3.5 decades, he held many important assignments in Kerala government as well as in government of India. He was born in Kinginimattam, Ernakulam. After his early education, he graduated in Electronics and Communication Engineering from College of Engineering, Trivandrum in 1985. Later did his MBA from University of Birmingham, UK, and subsequently completed his MBA, MPhil from University of Punjab, Chandigarh. He has awarded doctoral degree from IIT Delhi on optimization of India energy strategies for climate change and mitigation. He joined actually after the graduation in 1985, he has joined in VSSC for a start sync in 1985, worked as a scientist and a scientist engineer, worked on the control and guidance of launch vehicles. Later, he joined in Indian Administrative Service in 1987 and started his career as a sub-collector of Palakkad. Later, we know that he has worked he has been here. He is not a new face to us because he has worked as a collector of Ernakulam district in which Cialis benefited, that is had a pivotal role in land acquisition of Cial when it was in the early stage of land acquisition. He was the Central Provident Commissioner and worked on other various ministries as Director, Joint Secretary, and Secretary. He has a lot of contribution in the literary works. So many poems or the poetic books have been published. So many, there are few numbers: Manalvaregal, Nimishajalagam, Madhuravilabam, Ramanujabam, so many poetic compositions, and then 2 novels, Arivalam and Bandhanasthara and Nayadivan. And there are some translations, Upanishad Kavya Taravali, Taoisatinde Jnanapana, Pravajagan, Vengalarubia, Ashwarudan, these translations. And one of his book in the Ramanujabam has been translated to Hindi by Dr. A. Subramanian, and it has won an award from the Ministry of Culture. Then he has already been awarded so many awards also: S.K. Puttagad Literary Award, Akshaya Literary Award, Parshi Raja Sahitya Pratibha Puraskaram, Literary Network Award of Excellence in 2012, and Appreciation Award for Anti-Tobacco Activities in Kerala State by Regional Cancer Association 2001. So it is so many other things are there, but I am limiting my introduction with these few words. Sir, we are so grateful on accepting our invitation for this function, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. A.C.K. Nayar, Chairman of Memorial Lectures, for that welcome address and the introduction of our chief guest. Good evening once again to our special guest of the evening, Dr. V.P. Joy, IAS Chief Secretary of Kerala, all the past illustrious presidents who are present here, Mr. P.V.S. Namboodiripad, Mr. A.K. Nayar, Mr. S. Jayatilakan, Mr. Jose Philip, Mr. S.R. Nayar, Mr. Rajmohan Nayar, Mr. Vivek Krishna Govind, Mr. Jibu Paul, and others whom I cannot see on the screen, Senior Vice President Nirmala, Vice President Mr. Balakrishnan, Memorial Lecture Chairman Mr. A.C.K. Nayar, Joint Secretary Algiers Khalid, other Managing Committee members, members of KMA and other LMAs, students and invited guests. Since the day we started our activities of this year in November 2020, we have maintained a steady momentum and continuously tried to engage our members in a slew of programs week after week. Today, when we have the current Chief Secretary of Kerala, Dr. V.P. Joy, IAS, coming to address us, we have turned a complete circle since we had our inaugural event in November with the then Chief Secretary, Dr. Vishwas Mehta, IAS, coming in to set the tone. In spite of the pandemic-related issues, lockdowns, curfews, and all disruptions, we at KMA maintained a steady flow of events with a multitude of events like the Leader Talk series with eminent speakers from industry, professions, and academia, having done 17 of them till now this year. The StartCon sessions with successful startup companies, 8 such sessions till now, showcasing 14 such entrepreneurs. Women Managers Forum activities, 9 events in 9 months, management education programs, master classes, and even big ticket events like the Management Week celebrations with 5 days of activities, including a global virtual run, the KMA Run, the Student Management Convention, the KMA Digital Summit, etc., and the Professor M.V. Piley and Professor K.T. Chandy Memorial Lectures. We also came out with 7 issues of the KMA News magazines over these 9 months. Rendezvous with the CEO, featuring hugely successful CEOs of public and private sector companies or other enterprises, is yet another new initiative of the year, which saw immense appreciation among our delegates. KMA MSME Forum also saw a flurry of activities with the industry's minister, Sri P. Rajiv himself, coming in to inaugurate this year's activities, and thereafter we've had 2 workshops with eminent leaders, including the Principal Secretary of Industries, guiding and inspiring our members from the MSME segment. All these activities were stitched together around our annual theme of the year, spearheading responsible management. While many such associations like KMA and trade bodies also blamed the tough times that we are in now for a slowdown of their activities, we chose to be with our members on a constant basis, consistently bringing to them a slew of sessions to inspire, enlighten, educate, update, and most importantly, to keep them remain positive in these trying times. And the true testimony of our efforts came in the form of two prestigious awards for the year 2020-2021, bestowed upon us by the All India Management Association, IMA, our apex national body. Both the best LMA of the year in the country as well as the most improved LMA of the year awards came to KMA this year. Thank you, all our members, for the wholehearted support and encouragement that motivated us to do more and thus get recognized nationally. The awards will be presented during the National Annual Convention of IMA, which will be held next week. Well, today we have yet another important event of our KMA calendar, the Sri M.K.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture. This lecture is an annual event organized in the memory of the late Sri M.K.K. Nayar IAS, the former CMD of FACT, who had put in yeoman services for the industrialization of Kerala and even beyond that scope during the 60s and early 70s of the last century. A karma yogi with a never say die spirit, he had played a pivotal role in shaping KMA and chaired KMA for more than a decade. KMA leadership in 2011, under the then presidentship of Mr. Rajmohan Nayar, decided to hold a commemorative lecture in his name every year, and we have been continuously organizing this for the past 11 years. While we have the 11th lecture being organized today, let me also remember the earlier editions where we had some of the renowned luminaries of the management and governance attending this session and delivering the memorial lectures. We had the first lecture delivered in 2011 by Sri L. Radhakrishnan IAS. Thereafter, it was Mr. Elias George IAS. In 2013, we had His Excellency Mr. M.K. Narayanan, the then Governor of West Bengal. We had Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, Executive Director of Tata Sons in 2014. We had Professor Jimal Unni, Director of Institute of Rural Management, coming in 2015. Mr. K. Jayakumar IAS, the then Vice Chancellor of Malayalam University in 2016. Dr. D. Babu Paul IAS, Mr. N.S. Madhavan IAS, Dr. A. Shivathanapillai in 2018, Mr. C.V. Anandabose IAS in 2019, and now we have Dr. V.P. Joy, our current Chief Secretary of Government of Kerala in 2021. And it's a privilege that we have Mr. L. Radhakrishnan IAS, retired, the inaugural speaker of this lecture series, also here with us today among the audience. Thank you, sir, for being here. Before we move on to the much awaited memorial lecture, we have an opportunity with someone here who had the proud privilege of knowing Mr. M.K.K. Nayar closely enough to take us through a memory lane of his experiences and anecdotes connected to this doyen of management education and its practice. Mr. S. Jayathilakan, the former president of Kerala Management Association, had a long stint at FACT and retired there as the Chief Engineer, Electrical and Instrumentation in 2001. Mr. Jayathilakan was also the president of the Kerala High Tension and Extra High Tension Industrial Electricity Consumers Association and is still active in all these associations. He had a dual distinction of being a president of KMA and also chairman of the Productivity Council during the same year of 2009. One of our senior past presidents of KMA, who has such close observations and encounters with Mr. M.K.K. Nayar, Mr. Jayathilakan will now deliver a brief remembrance speech on the late leader. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Jayathilakan. So you got to unmute.
First of all, let me thank the Managing Committee of KMA for entrusting the remembrance speech on this occasion of 11th M.K.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture. The present generation, including younger members of KMA, would have heard of Nayar sir, but would not have much information about his activities during the 12 years he was heading FACT and what he had done to FACT, mainly and in particular to the industrial scenario of Kochi. Nayar sir was born On 29 December 1930, and after graduation, he was selected to the Indian Administrative Service in 1950. He started his career as sub-collector of Westvale, Madras State. He served as Deputy Secretary in Government of India and then was appointed as project manager of Bhilai Steel Plant, where during his few years of service, he could complete the steel plant on time. Afterwards, he was appointed as General Manager of FACT on 31st July 1959, which at that time was managed by Seshadri Brothers under the management agency system. On 15th August 1960, the Government of India abolished the management agency system, and then M.K. Nayar sir was appointed as the Managing Director of Fertilizers and Chemicals Travancore Limited. He held that position for 12 years. He left FACT and went back to join Government of India as Joint Secretary on 18th July 1971. During his tenure of 12 years in FACT, he pioneered the third stage and fourth stage expansions of FACT Udyogamandal division. The FACT Cochin division at Ambalamed was his brainchild. Starting from acquisition of around 1,500 acres of land at Ambalamedu and commissioning of ammonia and urea complex as phase 1, and the sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid, and ammonium phosphate plants as phase 2 was executed during his tenure. The layout of the old area with the beautiful lake and the Ambalamed house is an example of his brilliant vision. Starting of FACT Engineering and Design Organization, that is a FEDO, as well as FACT Engineering Works, FEW, along with the expansion, gave FACT the opportunity to carry out design of fertilizer plants and steel fabrication in our own shops. During his tenure, he made the company one of the largest units in fertilizer manufacture, as well as engineering consultants in India at par with Engineers India Limited. FEDO had engineered a number of fertilizer and chemical plants in northern and western India. His marketing strategies in the 4 southern states were well organized, and the elephant mark fertilizers, Ane Marku Uram, were the most popular brand in South India. The research wing of FACT was also established during this period, and number of pilot plants were put up. At this peak period, FACT's employee strength was more than 10,000 compared to the present strength of 2,000. His contributions to the city of Kochi and the state of Kerala for the development of industrial structure was unparalleled. He was the founding father of almost all the prominent business and trade associations like the Kerala Management Association, where he was president for 12 years. He was the founder chairman of Kerala State Productivity Council and held that position for 5 years. He has also left a deep imprint in the fields of art, literature, culture, sports and games, and was chairman of Kerala Kala Mandala. The School of Management Studies under Kerala University was started on his initiative at FACT Training School under Dr. M.V. Piley. The importance given to sports and games, the football team of FACT won the Santosh Trophy for the first time in the year 1973. That is after he left. Now it is 50 years since he left FACT in the year 1971. Nobody working in FACT at present would have seen him alive. Only very few elderly people living at present had the opportunity to work with him during their service in FACT. I have made a small narration of what Nayar sir did for the state in the industrial, cultural, educational, sports and games field for the information of the younger generation. I joined FACTS along with 36 engineers of different branches on September 1st, 1966. During our training period, Nayar sir addressed us at FACT Training School, and that was my first opportunity to meet him and hear him. I was a very junior officer, and I never had an opportunity to meet him officially till he left FACT. The only opportunity I had to be with him in a small group of seniors was on our return trip from Sabarimala after the Vishu Puja closing in the late 60s. I was in the small group with my uncle along with the late Sri Prakulam Bhasi, who was the Devasam board member at that time, along with Nayar sir, slowly walking down from Sannidhanam to Pamba, which took more than 2 hours. The return journey with the group was very interesting, with Nayar sir leading the conversation on many subjects. He was talking about the Hindu saints, and Maharshi Vishwamitra came up for discussion. I still remember Nayar sir's comments about Maharshi Vishwamitra's masculine character and structure, stating that even his sweats can produce children. I still remember that. His autobiography in Malayalam, Arodam Paribhavamillade, describes all the major events in his life and is worth reading for the younger generation. This book was translated to English by our colleague Sri M. Gopavaman, titled Malice Towards None. Nayar sir left us on 27th, 1987 at Thiruvananthapuram. I was at Trivandrum on that day, and as requested by Dr. Abraham, who was head of personnel at that time, I had the privilege of laying the floral wreath on his mortal body at his residence at Shastramangalam, representing FACT officially. Nayar sir's contributions to the state in the industrial and cultural fields can be passed on to the next generation only through occasion like this. And I have the satisfaction of passing on few such informations through my short narration. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jayatharan sir, for listing out such an illustrious and enviable professional career of the late leader, and for those vivid and interesting traits of Sri M.K.K. Nayar. Salutes to him for making us all proud as a son of our soil, who went places and left indelible marks and trails of glory in whatever he touched, be it business, administration, or even arts. And thank him for a proud entity called FACT as a true legacy in his name. It is really nice to see Mr. Kishore Rangta, the current chairman and managing director of FACT, who's turning around FACT into winning ways again, listening to this lecture and being present in the audience. Thank you, sir. And thank you once again, Jayatharan sir, for the tribute. And we will move on now to the eagerly awaited keynote address. We have yet another Keralite leader who is making us all proud with his multifaceted abilities and talents as the Chief Secretary of Kerala. Now, all ears and eyes to you, sir, Dr. V.P. Joy, while you take us through this edition of the M.K.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture. Over to you, sir.
Distinguished members of the Kerala Management Association and its President Sri R. Madhavachandran, Chairman Memorial Lectures Sri A.C.K. Nayar, Secretary Sri Jomon K. George, and former President Mr. S. Jayathilagan, and all the members who are present today. I am extremely privileged to deliver this lecture in the name of Sri M.K.K. Nayar, the legendary personality as described by Mr. S. Jayathilagan here today. Though I didn't have any personal opportunity to interact with him, I had a very good I had very close acquaintance with Professor Omcheri Anand Pillai in Delhi, who was telling me about several incidents of his interaction with Sri M.K.K. Nayar. As a man of great qualities and great leadership, and man of great contribution to Kerala society, and in several sectors, I was very much impressed with his stories, with his anecdotes, which Professor Omcheri Anand Pillai mentioned. In fact, his book, Professor Omcheri Anand Pillai's autobiography, titled Akasmikam, which won the Kendra Sahitya Academy Award this year. It has a chapter on Sri M.K.K. Nayar and his interaction with Sri M.K.K. Nayar. So, based on what Mr. S. Jayathilagan told here today, we can see how much was his contributions to Kerala, not only in the sector of management or in the area of industry, but also in the areas of art, literature, culture, and several other segments. So a lecture in the name of such a great personality is definitely a matter of privilege for me. Sri M.K.K. Nayar was a great managerial expert, management educator, and a great leader. So I am told by Sri A.C.K. Nayar that today this theme of this conference is responsive management. All of us are involved in management in some way or the other. In fact, all citizens are involved in management, either big or small. And a management, when we think of management, immediately the word leadership will come to our mind, because leadership is inseparable from management. So every manager is a leader in getting things done, or in motivating people, inspiring people to achieve greater things in life. So when we think of responsive management, what is meant by the word responsive? Management will always involve more than a group of people, an organization, and sometimes if it is managing a society also, you can say it is public management. It is also a kind of leadership and management there is involved, though it is in a much larger scale. Public management is also a matter of great leadership is involved in that. When we think of leadership, the best definition I heard was from this Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching in Chinese language in BC, 6th century BC. He was a person who wrote Tao Te Ching, which I had an occasion to translate to Malayalam as poetry. And that book, he gives some definition of leader. He says, the best of leaders is unknown. The best of leaders is unknown and he will remain unknown till the task is accomplished. And when the task is accomplished, everyone will say that we all did it. So that is the characteristic of the best of the leaders, according to Lao Tzu. Then he says the next best leaders are loved and respected. And the next best people leaders are feared. And the last of the leadership quality, or the last of the set of leaders, maybe the worst leaders, are hated. These are the adjectives he used for leaders. The best of the leaders the best leader is unknown, and next best is loved and respected. Third category is feared, and the fourth is hated. Now, when we look at this definition, we will see a bipolar approach to leadership. Bipolar in the sense that leadership is, of course, many things in management are always shown in a XY axis, two-dimensional graph, which is nothing but a bipolar kind of graph. And what is bipolar in this leadership approach of Lao Tzu is that he is putting leadership into two scales. One scale, x-axis, he is putting self-enhancement. And in the y-axis, he is putting self-transcendence. Now, what is self-enhancement? Leaders who enhance their own self in the process. That aspect, every leader will have both these aspects in his style of working. There are people in some of the graphs, in the management approaches, we read about the task-oriented and people-oriented. And of course, there are different kind of these bipolar graphs which we can see in leadership. But this particular bipolar graph which I am mentioning is self-enhancement and self-transcendence. Any person who is both, these characteristics will remain in every person to different extents. So self-enhancement is focusing on oneself and more or less authoritarian type of leadership. And self-transcendence is when a person is able to transcend his own self and think more and more about the external world. Now, this style, if we look at Laosu definition, you will see that the best leader, what he mentioned, probably self-transcendence is the greatest, and self-enhancement is almost not there. That is why that person remains unknown till the task is accomplished. And the last one, the one who is hated, he has self-enhancement 100% and self-transcendence almost 0. So that is the scale in which it is described. The leaders are described. Of course, all categories, all these different categories, from the last to the best to the last, and all kinds of combinations, they become leaders. So when we think of a real leader like Sri M.K.K. Nayar, we give attention to this fact. We need to give attention to the fact of what motivates a leader for achieving things. Probably everybody is wanting to be successful. So success is a very key aspect to which everybody is aspiring, both individually and collectively. But often, many things which we aspire for are generally not defined by the person who is pursuing it. Rarely do people define something, see something very clearly, and define in terms of very objective parameters and try to pursue it. But this probably, even the word success is not defined that much by all those people who pursue it. Success can be defined in many ways. Some people define it in terms of happiness. People say that a life where people are happy, that person can be considered successful. But happiness is more of a mental state, and it is not an end in itself. It is not something which is attained by defining it as an end and pursuing it. It is in the process of life it happens. So that is what. So the definition of the aim, the end, has to be really something else. So perhaps one definition which seems very apt in the context of leadership for success is that success is to be measured not in terms of accumulations, but in terms of contributions. Often we tend to define success in society in terms of accumulations. That is why we always see Forbes list and so many other lists, and we read in histories also about generals who won wars and killed many people, etc., etc. These kind of definitions define success in terms of accumulation and not in terms of contribution. But really, success, a better definition could be in terms of contributions. And if it is defined in terms of contributions, perhaps the role of leadership will become more and more obvious. I remember 4 lines of a poem which says, not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but what did he give? These are the units to measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Now, this is the kind of idea which is given when we define success in terms of contributions. If success is defined in terms of contribution, perhaps people who have studied happiness, often they say that happiness automatically is a byproduct of our definition of success or the definition of our direction. Now, it has been said that management is efficiency enhancement, achieving efficiency and achieving success by climbing the ladder of success. People want to climb the ladder of success by efficiently organizing his own activities, the activities of his group. But while management is definitely climbing the ladder of success, leadership defines whether the ladder is leaning against the right wall. Whether it is leaning against the right wall or against the wrong wall is what is shown by the leadership. Management is climbing the wall, climbing the ladder, but leadership tells whether the ladder is properly placed against the right wall. Because if it is not properly placed against the right wall, after climbing the top of the ladder, somebody will find that either the ladder will collapse or there's a chasm on the other side where he has to jump in further. So it is very important that the ladder is leaning against the right wall. This is precisely what sometimes when I see children in schools, I talk to them, and sometimes I ask them in physics, they always study what is the difference between scalar and vector. It is a very, very simple question. All the children know. What is the difference? Scalar is having only magnitude. Vector is having both magnitude and direction. So once they define this, which most children know, even from middle school, sometimes I ask a question, what is more important, magnitude or direction? Some children get confused. Some children will give the answer. They will say, some people say magnitude, some people say direction. Last time when I asked this question to some children, so they told me, one child told me that magnitude is the more important thing. So I asked one small question again. Okay, you came for this talk, but from home. Some people would have walked, some people would have traveled by bicycle, some people would have, come by car. So the speed would have been different. Some very slow, they would have come. So the magnitude would be different. Those who come by very fast means of conveyance will be coming very fast. The magnitude is very high. But whoever came in the right direction, irrespective of whichever vehicle they came, if the right direction was correct, they will reach the school. So if the direction was wrong, but that person was traveling at a very, very high speed, the direction was opposite, that person will never reach the destination. So which one is more correct now? More important, magnitude or direction? Then the children will get the idea. They will come to the conclusion that direction is more important than magnitude in a vector. Perhaps this is one way we can connect physics to philosophy. Because physics, when you study distinction between scalar and vector, it is pointing to the importance of direction, which is more important than magnitude. And when we seek direction, when we find out what is more important, and we find that direction is more important, we are squarely facing the biggest question of philosophy: what is the aim of life? Which, of course, there is no clear solution to that question, which people will define depending on what they perceive from their circumstances or from their understanding of what the external world is. Now, see, so what I pointed out in the beginning is management is something connected with the magnitude, and leadership is something connected with the direction. A manager will try to, do things faster, quicker, more efficiently, or try to maximize something. But it's a leader who will define what is it done for, what for, is the whole thing done. That means a leader is the person who will give the vision. And without a vision, there is no direction. Direction is always connected to vision. Often we say that the organizations would need a vision and a mission. A vision is a word which is more connected to the direction and leadership. And mission is a word which is more connected with the magnitude and execution. Now, this vision, that is why we call often leaders visionaries, because they are the people who define the direction. Once there is a vision, once there is a direction, a person can go either slow or fast, either by a slower vehicle or by a very fast moving vehicle. But as long as his vision is correct, either earlier or later, that person is bound to reach the destination. And if the vision is incorrect, however speed a person has, the achievement will be in the opposite direction. So from this perspective, it is very important to define what is the leadership role. And even in, so see, we are now living amidst our COVID pandemic, and COVID pandemic, if at all it has taught anything to us, it is a fact that we do everything together. Together, everyone achieves more. I think that is the expansion of the word team. So if COVID pandemic has taught us that it is only together we can achieve anything in the world. So the world together, there are problems in the world which are local, where individuals act. And there are problems in the world which are collective and which is acted upon by the whole world and the whole body as an organism. It is acted upon. So there, while every individual has his own objective, his own aim, and which that person is trying to pursue, we should not forget that that pursuit is contributing collectively to a collective aim also. See, when we fight the COVID pandemic, in fact, I wrote a poem called Virus. I think it is available in the net. This is Malayalam. I don't know how many of you can understand Malayalam. But the point is, this idea is that when we fight COVID pandemic, there is a resistance system in our body. See, there are white blood cells which are fighting this virus which is entering our body, and none of us know that these soldiers are fighting for us. None of us they know these white blood cells within our body fighting for us. But those cells, each autonomous cell, in fact, the entire world is organized as a hierarchy of autonomous structures, from the micro to the macro, as the world is designed in such a manner that at every level there is an autonomous entity. But the collectivity of such autonomous entities will again be a autonomous entity at a still higher level, and that will have a different objective. See, so at our level, we have an objective, we are living, we have certain objectives, we are pursuing it. But we are composed of these cells, which are again autonomous entities. At their level, they have their own objectives. They are doing something for whatever purpose they are doing it for. But collectively, when they do something, they contribute to our objective of keeping us free from disease. So whatever the cell is doing individually at its autonomous level is contributing to the collective objective of the body being disease-free. Similarly, just like virus is our white blood cell is a particular cell in our body which is doing something collectively contributing to our welfare. Each one of us is basically a cell in the global social body, where we individually pursue something and try to achieve something, but collectively we contribute to an objective at a global level, which may be the next autonomous level beyond us. So as organizations, we have to ensure that the directions, not only as organizations, as individuals or as organizations, we have to ensure that the directions which the individuals take, the directions which the organizations take, are aligned to the collective direction of the progress of the humanity. And unless that is ensured, unless this particular alignment is ensured by each individual and each organization, we cannot assume that we are following the right perspective, right direction. So this is the mechanism by which we align our objectives and our organizational objectives to what is required for the purpose of the world. So this kind of alignment is what is leadership. This kind of alignment is what gives vision for a particular leader. So, things are very dynamic. The tomorrow's world is not today's world. It was Plato who wrote that no man steps in the same river twice. What is the reason? He gave the reason. The reason is that the river would have changed. The river, next day, a person going to the river, though the river name, everything remains the same, but no drop of the water which he saw yesterday is there in that river. But there is another reason why no man steps in the same river twice. The next day, the person who is going there is a different person. Not only the river that has changed, but the human being also has changed. So a person seeing a river today and a person seeing a river tomorrow, both ways things have changed. The person has changed, the river has changed. The entire situation is a totally different situation. And though with our perception, or with our kind of unitary perception, we see that it is the same person seeing the river on both occasions. We know actually that things are different. So the world is a dynamic place. Things are changing, and therefore we need to, be aware about the direction every day. I have seen that I have managed many organizations. One main organization which I managed was that this Employees Provident Fund organization, which is a very huge, big organization in our country. I was the chief executive officer for 2.5 years. So when I joined that organization, the organization had around 3.5 crores of members. It's a huge organization. Every year, the inflow of money into that organization is 1,50,000 crores. And total, it has got a total amount of 11 lakh crores. Now, an organization in which 1,50,000 crores are flowing every year, and with the membership of 3.5 crores when I joined, there was a lot of problems. People were all complaining. People were saying that this organization, the workers are reluctant to join, and the firms are reluctant to contribute. So many issues. So actually, when I looked at it, I found that the organization has served from its direction. Every organization, when it is formed, it has a direction. It has got normally a noble direction. That is why all social welfare organizations, including government, are formed with a particular direction. But what happens over a period of time is that there is an inherent force in the world. If anybody, like second law of thermodynamics says that the world always moves in a direction of increasing disorder, not increasing order. The world has a tendency to increase the disorder. Similarly, the iron has a tendency to rust. So every system in the world has a tendency to move to increasing disorder. For organizations, this kind of tendency manifests itself in moving away from its direction for which that particular organization was formed. Any person who has driven a vehicle would know that suppose somebody is sitting on a car and the road is entirely straight, and he is sitting on the steering wheel, but doing nothing on the steering wheel. The road is straight, so he doesn't have to do anything with the steering. So he sits there without touching the steering or locking the steering. But after some time, you will find that the car would have gone away from the road if he sits like that. Even if the road is perfectly straight, the car will go only sometimes along the straight path. It will shift from the path. Why this happens is because of this problem in the world, that the direction is changed automatically by its own this increasing disorder which an organization encounters. So because of this change in direction, after so many years, the organization would have shifted from its path for which it was formed. So a manager, a leader, the most important thing is to be watchful of what is the direction in which this organization should have moved and whether it is in the right direction now. If it is not in the right direction, move it back to the right direction and bring it back to the original direction is what is most important. So I found certain reasons why. Because of the reason that the workers, when they remit the money, they can see the money only after 5-6 months, or they don't know how much money is remitted. And of course, for withdrawing the money, they have to, fill up a 2-3 page form. They have to give it to various person for an agent and all that. And the agent will take 2-3 months for that money to be credited to his account and all. So these are the problems because of which the workers were not happy with the social security organization. The firms were not happy. But we undertook a huge technology changing exercise by which we changed the entire technology system of that organization. And when the workers put the money, within a week they can see it in the mobile. They can apply in their mobile and take the money. No need of filling form and no need of taking it to agent and all that. So when we put that system, we found that in a space of 2 years, the number of workers there increased. The members increased from 3.5 crore to 6 crores. Whereas that organization, the total, it was formed in 1952, I think. So many years, it had only 3.5 crores. But when its operations were streamlined, suddenly the membership increased. And suddenly the workers became happier with the organization. So basically, the idea is that every organization will have a direction, and the direction will be related to the total amount of public welfare. Public welfare does not include the welfare of those employees and management of that organization only. The public, as I said earlier, every organization direction has to be aligned to the overall direction of the society. So if it increases public welfare, if the direction is properly aligned, then definitely that organization is serving its purpose and it doesn't have to fear the dynamic scenario. Many a time we hear in the management parlance, the world is so dynamic, things are changing so fast, what will we do tomorrow? Now, world may be changing very fast, but if the direction is correct, nobody need to get afraid of the change the world is taking every day. Now, I would like to finish my lecture today by citing only one example, by citing a small story which I read once upon a time about the so-called 99 Club. The story is about a king who had a servant, and the king had a lot of worries on his head, and he was always a worried man because he had a problem every day, this problem or that problem. So the king looked around him and found that one of his servants is always very, very happy because he was always singing and he had no problem, no worry. So the king called him and asked him, "Why you seem to be very happy? I am the king of this huge kingdom, but I always worry." So the servant told him that, "See, I have one job here in your palace, and I do the job, and I have no further worries, and I don't think about it. I am very content with what I have, and I don't have any aspirations also, such a great aspiration, so I am generally happy." So the king called his minister. Then he told that, okay, the minister gave him one idea. So this contentment, if that is bringing happiness, let us test this particular idea. So the minister told him, "You take in 99 gold coins, put it in a bag, and keep it in front of the house of that servant." Okay. Next day, the king kept 99 gold coins. He put it in a bag and in the house. So the servant found 99 coins there. So after he counted the coins 2-3 times, found only 99. So he thought that he should have been actually 100. How this one coin was lost? He started thinking about it. And then he got very much worried. How this one coin, if I get one more coin, definitely it will become a proper number. So next day onwards, he started working for getting that one more coin. So after a week or so, the king called the servant and found that the servant is very, very unhappy. Now he is struggling and trying very hard. He is blaming his family and saying that, they are not supporting. I am struggling to get this one gold coin for which I have to work many 2-3 decades. So he became a very, very worried person and started trying for this coin. So now the minister told the king, now he has become a member of the 99 club. So that is the reason why he is now unhappy. He has become unhappy. See, the simple point is that if we are always in an acquisitive mode, we are in the 99 club. Whereas if we can bring some element of contribution also into that process, then we can perhaps escape from that 99 club and try to bring more and more direction, more and more happiness into our life. So there has to be a proper balance between the so-called, which we mentioned at the beginning, leadership. We mentioned a bipolar graph, whereby on one side there was self-enhancement, and on the other side there was self-transcendence. This is very, very important. This is what our Upanishads all say. That is also one idea I would like to bring in here, because this Ishavasyam is one of the Upanishads which I translated to Malayalam in poetry. There is one, its first shloka, it says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam etkincha jagatyam jagatena tektena punjida ma ghruda kasya siddhanam. It says, I translated to Malayalam, Malayalam is Yadannu Vazhunnu Jagathilallam Avasyamenല്ലാം Ava Ishanale Yagathinalingnu Bhujikkanam Nam Ashikala Vittamoraludedum is the translation. Its third line, Mahatma Gandhi always used to be very fond of this third line. He said, that third line says, Tena Tektena Punjida, means renounce and enjoy, is the English meaning of this. Renounce and enjoy. All modern economics has taught us consume and enjoy. In fact, they have a theory called the theory of diminishing marginal utility. So that is one thing they have considered. I mean, you consume, you enjoy more and more, but the more you consume, then there's a diminishing marginal utility. And just like you consume, and after some time your utility will become zero, is what they are saying in economics. But still, more consumption means more enjoyment, is what economics says. But this shloka says a little different. It says, renounce and don't be, the advice is not renounce and be unhappy. No. What it says, renounce and enjoy. So this is a very, very wonderful invention. This is a very wonderful idea, which at least some people at some point of time, these Upanishads were written in from 2000 BC 400 to BC 1000 is a period in which these Upanishads were written. So during BC 400 to BC 1000 year period, somebody thought, maybe today when we look at it, it is a revolutionary idea. Because how can we imagine the idea that renounce and enjoy? You renounce and be very happy about it. And then you will find the enjoyment there. It's a very, very wonderful idea. I don't know whether it is correct. Maybe we can try practice and check whether it is a correct idea. At least it's an idea which is a few millennia old. So nothing wrong in giving a trial, which will be a good idea, I think. So anyway, so there are several ideas, and ultimately it is ideas which give us happiness. People have defined happiness in several ways. There was a professor in the Yale University called William Leon Phelps. He defined happiness in terms of furnishing the mind. Because what he thought is that, what he says that every person is living in a house or in an office or in a room. So we want to make the room very beautiful. So in this room, if there are paintings on either side, here also some painting, this room is very beautiful. I want to make my room beautiful because I want to sit in a beautiful room. But the question is, are we living only in a room? Primarily, every human being is living in his mind first. The first house of every human being is his mind. And then outside the mind comes the room. So if we want to make the room beautiful where we sit, why not the mind where we live? Why not beautify the first house and then start beautifying the outer shells of our existence is a question. So if you put paintings in the room, to beautify the room where you sit, why not put he says, furnish your mind so that you can live inside a mind with attractive and interesting pictures on the walls. So furnishing the mind with ideas can definitely give some happiness is what these kind of thinkers tell us. So there are several ideas. One of the ideas with which we can furnish the mind is renounce and enjoy, which Mahatma Gandhi hailed this idea in his entire life, because this was considered such a novel and great idea. Now all leaders in small or big measure follow such ideas which are greater and not ideas which are not so obvious. Many a time science, the so-called science, including economics, tells ideas which are obvious. But there are ideas which are not that obvious, but which may have an element of truth in it, which may not be. So let us not believe everything which is sold in the name of so-called science, whether it is social science or natural science. There may be ideas which are beyond such obvious things, because the world is extremely complex. The world is extremely mysterious place. And understanding that mystery is also part and parcel of our existence. So that is the importance of ideas in life. So with these words, I thank the organizers of the Kerala Management Association for giving me this opportunity to interact with with all of you, which I consider it my privilege, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Very lucid and erudite lecture, lectured with such simplicity, and I must say, an Abdul Kalam-like lecturing style, sir. With such examples to illustrate, you are indeed a poetic philosopher, an administrator with such scholarly treasure trove of knowledge. You just illustrated that in your words, so simple words. Leadership definitions on self-enhancement and self-transcendence. Success in terms of accumulation or by contribution, very profound indeed. A definition which I'm sure it's a takeaway for many of us present here. And manager and leader definitions, connecting them with physics and philosophy. Wonderful. I don't have no words to compliment that. And of course, management and leadership in terms of wall climbing methods. A very, very simple illustration, whether it is climbing the right wall or the wrong wall, or the ladder is kept on the right side or the wrong side. And the mission and vision definitions through managers and leaders was really enlightening. Just to differentiate the two, we always hear about these mission and vision statements. You made it so clear by saying that one belongs to the manager and one belongs to the leader who has got a vision. And the parting advice, of course, of renounce and enjoy. I believe it's a true essence of today's life. Thank you so much, sir. It's indeed very enlightening, and such a wonderful talk which you gave made it really memorable M.K. Nayar Memorial Lecture. And thank you, Mr. A.C. Nayar, for getting Dr. Joy for this lecture and making it a real joy for all of us to get really enlightened and this opportunity to listen to him. The formal vote of thanks will follow, but before that, let me indulge in a few announcements to all of you. We have a very busy September left behind. On 18th, we have the Young Managers Contest, which is going on. The final rounds is going to be live telecast from 9:30 onwards on the YouTube. There are 8 teams which are shortlisted, and they're going to make their presentation. That is on September 18th from 9:30 a.m. onwards. The link will come to each one of you members and those who are there in the database. And 21st of September, we have the next edition of the Rendezvous with the CEO, which is a program conducted by the KMA CEO Forum. And we have Mr. Dilip Uman, the Chief Executive Officer of ArcelorMittal, going to address us along with our own managing committee members and the head of Nayar refineries, Mr. Prasad K. Panikar, the former ED of BPCL Kochi refineries, and Mr. Madhu Nayar, the CMD of Kochi Shipyard Limited, going to be engaging Mr. Dilip Uman in a conversation that is a rendezvous with the CEO on September 21st at 6 p.m. And we have the IMA National Management Convention happening on 22nd and 23rd, which is going to be a free entry this time for a change, thanks to COVID and the online platform. It's an online convention with such great speakers, a galaxy of speakers lined up by IMA as always. It's on 22nd and 23rd, starting at 2:30 both days. IMA National Management Convention. And on 24th, we start Executive Development Program, or EDP, on financial management for entrepreneurs and business owners. It's a specialized program, a 5-week EDP with 6 hours a week of online classes during weekdays, starting from 24th September and ending on 31st October. Details are available with the KMA Secretariat. Eminent faculties who are partners at renowned financial consulting firms like Verma & Verma and JVR Associates going to take the sessions from 24th September to 31st October. This is a paid event, which is starting as a management development program or an executive development program on financial management for entrepreneurs and business owners. And on 27th of September, we have the next workshop of the MSME series, which is going to be a lecture by Sri S. Harikishore IAS, the Director of Industries and Commerce Department of Government of Kerala. He is going to elaborate on the policies and the offerings of the Government of Kerala for the MSME segment in these trying times. That is on 27th of September at 6 p.m. And on 28th September, the next day, immediately after that, we have the next edition of the Leader Talk series. On the Leader Talk series, we have Mr. V. Ajit Kumar, the Managing Director of Kerala Rail Development Corporation, going to talk on his K-Rail plans. That is the Leader Talks session on 28th September. That is the last week of this month. We have Mr. Ajit Kumar talking to us. So please stay tuned to our announcements and notices on WhatsApp, email, SMS, and all kinds of communication channels, and mark your dates. Now it's time for our Joint Secretary, Mr. Algiers Khalid, to propose the formal vote of thanks to this superb session. Over to you, Algiers.
President Madhav Chandran, Chief Guest of the evening, Chief Secretary, Mr. VP Joy, Chairman, Memorial Lecture Series, Mr. A.C.K. Nayar, Senior Past President, Mr. Jay Tilakan, and other galaxy of past presidents, Managing Committee, and KMA members. Indeed, a very fruitful session today to culminate the Memorials Lecture Series of the year. Today's Chief Guest, our Chief Secretary, Mr. VP Joy, was in his eloquent best on leadership qualities of successful managers. Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time to be the chief guest for this important event of KMA of this year, organized in memory of the doyen of the management and industry in Kerala. Your lecture was so nice, especially highlighting the various aspects of leadership in management and also on responsible leadership. It was very heartening to hear that the measurement of success of a manager is with the contribution made during the tenure. Also, the importance of leadership to work together in challenging times to achieve collective aims and objectives by aligning in the right direction. The story of 99 Clubs was indeed very nice and a good lesson for all searching for happiness. Mission and vision and renounce and enjoy all will remain with us forever. On behalf of all the members of Kerala Management Association, I thank you, sir, from the bottom of my heart. Thanks also to our Senior Past President of KMA, Mr. Jay Tilakan, for sharing your memories of association with MKK Nayar with the Remembrance Speech. You beautifully articulated the contribution of the great management leader of Kerala, Mr. MKK Nayar. You laid the foundation, for the industries in Kerala, and also his various contribution to art and literature besides management education with an illustrious career. It really would definitely be very valuable information for the new generation of managers after several decades of his role in FACT. Thank you, Mr. Jay, Past President Jay Tilakan, sir, for the tribute. Highly appreciate and grateful. Special thanks to Chairman, Memorial Lecture, KMA Management Committee member, Mr. A.C.K. Nayar, for arranging the event and also welcoming everyone present. Thank you, sir, for arranging the chief executive of our state to be the chief guest of this important lecture. Thanks to all the past presidents, managing committee, and KMA members for attending in large numbers today. Large number of members were present throughout the session. I would also place on record and thank the Secretariat team led by Executive Director, Lieutenant Jojo Jacob, and his team members, Brijit and Padma Kumar, for arranging all the things for this lecture series. Sponsors for the event needs a special mention for their wholehearted support in joining hands with KMA. Special thanks to our sponsors, Medivision, Hale, Sarah, and Varma Holmes. They all played a very important role in success of all programs of KMA. Before I conclude, Prijit, are there specially curated mementos ready? Yeah. Yeah. So this will be couriered to you, to remember today's session at the KMA and cherish it. Thank you, one and all. Have a nice evening.
So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, LJS, and a special thanks to Mr. Kishore Rangta, also representing FACT. The chairman is present here throughout the session. Thank you, sir, for being here. And thank you, Dr. Joy, once again, from the bottom of our hearts for making this session such a memorable one. And thank you all, and this meeting is adjourned. Stay safe, be safe.